All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I think we've got a few of our KUWL Council members on, so thanks for being here tonight. We've got, hopefully you can all see my screen, the presentation that we'll be going through. Just let me know in the chat if you're having any problems seeing anything. Is there somebody on who can let people in while I'm talking? Thank you. All right. So here's our agenda for tonight. Just to give you all a heads up of what's coming. I'm going to turn it over to the commissioner in just a moment. But then we're going to have Jennifer Stafford give an overview of Framework 2.0, which is what we have been working on and sharing in our town halls. I'm going to give a little bit of an update on the town halls. We'll talk about what we've been observing in those town halls, and if any of our partners or members who are on that have been to any of those town halls have any observations they'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you as well. And then Commissioner Fletcher is going to talk about the wows and wonders that we've heard from those town halls. And then Jennifer and I will share some next steps with everyone. All right. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Fletcher.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Karen, and welcome to everyone. And we appreciate your taking the time. I think we had 30-some folks that were in our meeting earlier today, and we were able to talk about our town halls. And one of the things I'll share about the town halls, this has been a great experience for me. We've had the opportunity to present some the work that's been done to this point. We've talked to the people about everything from the prototypes of going through the process. We've had, of course, we'll talk a little bit about the agenda of each of those town halls. But there's been so many great stories that have been shared. We've spent some time allowing districts to talk about the vibrant learning that's going on. We've had members of KDE to really define vibrant learning, utilizing the definition that was developed by the KUWL Council. Talked about really focusing on the relevance of the vibrant learning for students, but also too the opportunity to allow districts to talk about their local accountability journey. And some of the stories that we're hearing from districts that they're sharing with everyone, it's exciting. It's really invigorating, to be honest, to be a part of that, as not only as a commissioner but as an educator and just as a parent, to hear some of the great stories that are going on. I think Jennifer has done, Dr. Stafford has done a great job in presenting our 2.0 version. We already have some input for 3.0. And as a matter of fact, we have some information this morning from the KUWL Council about what to look at for 3.0. But we're hearing from stories across the state about vibrant learning, about their accountability, their local accountability, and how the collaboration with their local communities is making such a difference. As a matter of fact, I'll share one of the stories I shared with earlier, that one of the districts, I think it was Christian County, and had talked about how one of their students works with drones. He has a work-based learning experience, part of his high school day, but many times he has to be excused from class for having people from all over the world to call him to get advice because he works for a company that deals in drones. And he did his defensive learning and talked about that and the pride that he had that was going on within his own experience, how relevant and how you can't be much more vibrant than that. And also too, I'm gonna steal Jennifer's story. Jennifer shared this several times, but we also heard from I think it was Bullitt County, who in their one of his defenses of learning and one of his young man's experience, a third grader has already written 2 books and published them to Amazon, and is making money as we speak on those 2 books as a third grader. So anyway, we're very thankful for and that's just one of many, 2 of many stories that are going on, but also too the power of the local accountability and that working with the local community to say, okay, what do you expect of us? How do we tie this back to our profile of a learner? What does this look like as far as local accountability? Has been very exciting to be a part of. So we've hit several town halls. I think we've met with every co-op directors. And the co-op, for those of you who may not know, co-op directors are essentially superintendents of a certain region. And I think we've done all the co-op director meetings, and now we just have 3 more of the town halls to go. So far, it's been a lot of great input and already some information on 3.0. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to, let me say one more thing. I want to take an opportunity to thank the KUWL Council. We've gone through a lot of these meetings, and it's been very rare that something was brought up in a town hall that hasn't been discussed in a KUWL Council meeting. Everything from what does local accountability look like, to social studies, writing, to, I mean, it's we've maybe only had one or two comments that we hadn't heard some type of discussion like this in the KUWL Council. But also thank you to the KDE team. Our KDE team has been on the road, making sure, first of all, that it's organized, having everything put together, but not only organized, but also too having the opportunity to talk to people. Many times we're after the town halls almost an hour just talking more with people about this. And so I want to say thank you to the KDE staff that has been a part of our town hall. So thank you so much for the work that you do. So that being said, I will turn it over to Dr. Stafford to talk about our 2.0 model framework.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we could not be more pleased with how the town halls have been going. We've had great participation. The people that are there have been really engaged in the conversation around the big topics, particularly vibrant learning. And what we tell them is that we're talking about two systems, assessment system and accountability systems, but it's for the opportunity to spread more vibrant learning experiences. So what we're using systems in order to spread the opportunities of the vibrant learning experiences for all of our students. So using systems that impact the student experiences as a whole education system. So where we talk about vibrant learning experiences, those are experiences that are relevant to students, that they have voice and they have interest, that they have agency in what they participate in and what they learn, and in ways that they can demonstrate their learning authentically. So moving away from some traditional types of experiences, and the team in the town hall has a really good demonstration of vibrant learning compared to maybe some more standardized, more traditional types of experiences, and that really resonates with the participants of the town halls, that they are they've experienced some of the traditional experiences that are offered, and they want for their child or their loved one more vibrant learning experiences. We talk about the fact that the collaboration within 2.0 is a central focus, that we're working and we're learning from each other in development of our local accountability systems and our vibrant learning. So encouraging this collaboration across our districts so that they can share best practices with each other, where the state is supporting that collaboration and moving away from the comparison, moving away from those color ratings, and developing systems of support so that districts who may have similar demographics or similar challenges, they can work together and they can support each other in overcoming these challenges and for the betterment of all of our students. We had one superintendent, he shared that, when he has his open heart surgery, he wants the best student. He doesn't care if it's from his county or if it's from another county. He just wants the best heart doctor there. So we're really encouraging that collaboration across our districts, not just with the vibrant learning experiences, but also with the learnings from the L3 districts that and that's the local labs of learning who have been engaged in the development of their local accountability system, so that they can share best practices with other districts who are in different areas or different stages of their development of the local accountability systems. So really trying to engage our local communities to design and customize their local accountability to meet the priorities of that community. So encouraging through these systems to engage with the communities, engage with parents, other stakeholders, business leaders, community leaders, students, and faith leaders, bringing them together for discussions around what is important to them. And we've heard tremendous impact. And one of the most powerful pieces in our town halls is when the districts share their story about where they are in their journey toward a local accountability system. And you know, we know that it takes time and it takes effort, but the rewards are so great. And when the community comes together to support the schools, our students win, our educators win, and our community wins, because that's where the strength of our communities is in the acts that we share together. And within that local accountability, that local innovation piece of allowing our schools and districts to highlight the good things that they are doing within their schools. So giving them the ability to customize and having that flexibility that they can tell their story around their local accountability system. And that's really different in the fact for Kentucky, we've not had systems of flexibility with accountability. I mean, that's so new and different. So we're really trying to engage people in that conversation that local accountability can be different. It doesn't have to be the same. We have the comparison over in the federal piece, and they can see how they are doing compared and relative to other districts or schools, but the local accountability piece has that flexibility. And then again, developing that that support about feedback and receiving critical feedback from local districts that they can work together to give each other some critical feedback and positive feedback, and again, working together to overcome those obstacles, bringing into the support and feedback and external evaluator that would look for best practices and ways in which that they can bring in the equity piece into the discussion, so that we have a high rigor and high level across districts that again would have the flexibility to determine what they want, but still be able to have that high rigor within our systems. So let's look particularly at what 2.0 has as far as two distinct systems. Karen, if you go to the next slide, please. So we've gotten feedback on this graphic. So we know in 3.0, it will be two pieces. It will just have two, because we talk about two distinct systems. We talk about the federal system, which is that navy blue over on the right-hand side, and we talk about the local. So what we were trying to do with these two separate pieces was identify that there are differences with, even though it's a local system, there's differences within the local. There'll be choice measures that will be required, but there's choices, but then the local piece that will be locally determined. So we know that this graphic is going to change in 3.0. So let's start over on the right-hand side with the state measures. And these are about, the first ones are about accountability. And then that last bullet about the science is about the assessment system. So thinking about accountability, that federal accountability that meets our current Every Student Succeeds Act, having the indicators of accountability that meet those federal guidelines. So starting with reading and math, every year, grades 3 through 8, and then once at high school at grade 10. And that would be based on the summative assessment. So the indicator of reading and math for our indicator within our schools. Our most overwhelmingly positive, supported indicator was to move away from that change component that we have currently to an individual student growth measure. So that has been the most supported thing. It's in here as a elementary and middle school measure. So, you know, it's reading and math would be the individual student growth. That's every year 3 through 8. So that is an indicator at elementary and middle schools. High schools would utilize then the transition readiness and the graduation rate. So the other pieces of federal accountability really don't change because we have transition readiness, graduation rate, and that English language progress indicator, as well as the climate and safety survey. Now, you will recall in Framework 1.0 that you gave us feedback on. We had the science performance in that quality of school climate and safety federal requirement. It's meeting that bucket. We heard loud and clear from you all, from the local superintendent advisory council, as well as the Kentucky Board of Education, that they did not want the science assessment to be part of that federal identification. So we heard clearly that student voice was a much more desired indicator to be used in that federal piece. So that's a change from our Framework 1.0. So we listened and we put the climate and safety survey into that federal identification. Now, those 5 pieces, those 5 indicators would all be the same for accountability and be utilized for the identification of our federal classification, which are the bottom 5% of schools. CSI, continuous support and improvement, are schools that have student populations performing as low as the bottom 5%. That's targeted support and improvement, and then that additional targeted support. So all of those indicators would be the same, so that it would yield that identification of those federal classifications. Also the same would be then the science assessment. So currently in federal law, there is a requirement to assess and report science. So the students would be tested in science using a state-developed, department-developed assessments. Schools and districts would have the choice, though, of whether or not to put science assessment into their local accountability system. So we have to test it, we have to report it, and we'll meet that requirement. But whether or not the districts put it into their local accountability is their own decision. Currently, in the Framework 2.0 has science to be assessed every year, grades 3 through 10. Okay, so again, that's a common assessment that would be utilized each year, grades 3 through 10. And the choice, again, would be to include it in the local accountability system. So let's move over to the local. First, we'll start with some required measures to be in the local accountability system that would include social studies and writing. So Another term that is going to be different for Kentucky is optional, an optional assessment that is provided by the state in social studies and writing. So it would be an option in social studies and writing that the schools could utilize a state-developed social studies and a state-developed writing, or they could develop their own local authentic demonstration of learning or competency-based system. So if districts are in a situation that they feel very comfortable, they have experiences in developing those type of assessments for those content areas, then they could utilize their own and include it in their local accountability system. So it's not an option of whether or not to include social studies and writing in local accountability. That's an expectation. But then the choice is which of the measures that you put in there. Similar vibrant learning experiences, we've had members of our Accelerating Innovation Standing Committee develop a menu of options around vibrant learning experiences. Those include capstone projects, defenses of learning, other types of experiences, and the ability for districts to develop their own and include it in accountability. Again, that's a required piece. The choice is which options to use. And then the last of the choice measures has gotten the most feedback of our, especially from our boards of directors of the co-ops. We'll have, let me tell you how it is in version 2.0 right now, and then we can talk about what we're expecting for version 3.0. Currently, interim assessments will be developed by the state in reading and math for grades 3 through 10 to be administered in the fall and the winter. Okay, so right now that's a requirement because we heard that 67% plus, a little over, of our respondents to our survey said, yes, we will be willing to give up our interim assessments that include like our MAP, our STAR, or iReady. As we've talked through these, the board of directors and the town hall, that may not be as willing to give those up as the survey indicated. So moving forward in 3.0, the interim assessments will be an option that the schools and districts could opt into the state developed interim assessment, or they can continue to utilize their own. If they opt into the state developed, the state would develop these aligned to the Kentucky academic standards, and it would mirror that's the summative assessment. So the summative assessment will go through the RFP process and include information around the summative assessment and aligned interim assessments. And the another advantage of opting into the state is the state would pay for it. If they opted to use their own, then they would, the district would pay for their own interim assessments. So again, changes are continuing to happen, and we're continuing to listen to our feedback. The last piece about local accountability is the flexibility around designing their own local measures of the local accountability systems that are aligned to their portraits of a learner. So we've heard there is great support for the flexibility in that. And we've had a lot of good feedback, and it's been well received to develop their own local accountability system and be able to highlight and showcase what they're doing locally to support their students. Now, assurances that there would be an inclusive process would be an expectation that the schools would engage with their local community, bringing in voices, and again, aligning it to their portraits of a learner. And we've heard many examples of how our schools and districts that are already engaging in these activities are meeting that. We've heard about schools bringing in indicators such as supports for social emotional learning, supports and indicators of micro-credentialing and things of that nature, bringing in the utilization or how many students are engaged in co-curricular or extracurricular activities. So lots of different discussions currently happening, and again, the excitement is there to utilize this. So Karen, if we'll go to the last slide, and then I'll turn it over to you, is that we realize that our districts are in different places along this journey. The capacity within the schools are different, and they are at different places. So what we'll do is we'll start with a pilot phase and utilize the work that is happening already with our local labs of learning and the other districts that are engaged in this, learning from each other, developing those competencies within our leaders, within our teachers, our districts, and our students, before we then expand that to other
Hang on
districts.
just a second, Jennifer. We're struggling to get to that slide there. I believe. There we go.
That's it. There we go. And then we scale it statewide. So again, the desire to work with each other and support each other across the Commonwealth for building a more prosperous Kentucky is there.
And to add with this, we've had districts to present their local accountability models and the work that they've done so far. And many districts may have been working on this for a couple of years until they feel like it's fully in. And we're even talking about our L3 districts. They're saying before they feel like it's fully implemented, it could be including a phase, kind of reevaluation cycle where they go through a cycle and then they reevaluate their system. Before they feel like they can have everything fully in place, there's one district felt like it'd be 28, 29. So even though we're presenting something, Lord willing, in 2026 to the General Assembly, we fully realize it's going to take more. You just can't flip a switch and say in the fall we're ready to go. There has to be capacity building. There has to be, look at professional development. How's that look to help our teachers to develop these type of not only these vibrant learning experiences and spread throughout the Commonwealth. And some districts are there with their pilot phase. We probably have some districts, a handful of districts that could go tomorrow. But we realize that's only a handful out of 171 districts. So, but building that expansion, have districts work together is so important. One of my favorite slides that was presented was by Woodford County, and that's outside of the pictures of the kids involved in their local accountability and their defenses of learning and vibrant learning. One of my favorite slides has the collaboration among districts. Woodford County put up a slide with all the emblems of all the districts that they've been working with. They included Clark County, Logan County, Rowan County, Johnson County, and I'm missing one, Shelby County. So they had worked already and had meetings with different districts on how to develop their own, and then sharing their own ideas too. So to have 6 or 7 districts working together on a local accountability model, again, it doesn't have to be this, it shouldn't be the same model, but to have them collaborating together is very powerful. We're lifting each other up and very excited about that. So again, I think this part of of all of it makes sense, but this is so important to realize that we're not expecting districts to be ready to go fall 2026. It's going to take some time to build to that point to have that sustainability. All right, I think, Karen, are you next?
Yeah, if I can get to it.
Good job,
All
Dr.
Right.
Stafford.
All right, next up, can you all see the next screen? We're talking about the completed town halls. So 6 of our 9 have been completed. We did start on January 15th because the first 3, we had lots of snow here in Kentucky. So the first 3 had to be rescheduled. So on January 15th, we were at CKEC and we had about 95 attendees. January 16th was at KUWL. We had about 40 attendees there. On the 21st, we were at GREC with 90 attendees. And then on the 27th, we had our Spanish town hall. We had about 15 that signed up for that, and we did have about 15 there. So this was definitely a small one. The principal and the superintendent both called me to let me know that they were worried that it wasn't going to be very well attended. But we went ahead with it. We had Alfonso. I know Alfonso is on here this afternoon. He was on the virtual part of it, ready to take any questions that anybody had that needed to be translated. So we really appreciate Alfonso being there on hand for that. We had 2 translators in the room. And we did record that. So even though it wasn't as well attended as we would have liked, we do have those out there and we'll be able to. And Alfonso, I'm probably going to be tapping on you if you can help us to distribute that to our Spanish communities to make sure that they're able to see and watch that if they choose to do so. We would love to get that out more broadly. On the 29th, thank you, Alfonso. On the 29th, we went to OVEC and had about 78 attendees. And then on the 30th, we were at WKEC with about 45 attendees. And I will point out that, you know, we asked folks to register. It wasn't required. But normally when we have folks register, we end up seeing, you know, for anything, you end up with about half of the people coming of those who registered. And in this case, we're getting at least as many people that registered. And in most of these cases, we are getting double or triple the amount of people showing up as those who registered. So we've been really excited about this. We have already exceeded what we did with our virtual town halls several years ago when this whole event started. I know different numbers went out about those original virtual meetings, but some of those numbers were greatly inflated. These town halls by far exceed what we were able to do with those virtuals several years ago. So the 3 that had to be postponed are coming up in February, the 4th, the 12th, and the 27th, even though that says tentative, that is a confirmed schedule. And as you can see, these are already registered with high numbers. So we're looking at 60 that registered for the 4th, 34 on the 12th, and another 61 on the 24th. So if we double these numbers, that's really huge. These are honestly really big numbers for town halls. The structure, Dr. Fletcher starts off with about a 10-minute welcome, and then it gets turned over to Sarah or someone on her team. They talk about vibrant learning. They talk about the definition that was created through the United We Learn Council. And just give some examples of what learning it traditionally looks like versus what a vibrant experience looks like. Then we have a district, and I shared on those prior 2 screens, you see which of the districts were involved in each of these. So the district personnel come in and talk about what they're doing in their district and how vibrant learning is really changing the way that they educate their students. Then Jennifer talks about Framework 2.0, just as she did here tonight. And then Dr. Fletcher has been leading the wows and wonders, asking people what they like about what they're seeing and what questions or what are they still wondering about as they listen in. Some of the things that we have observed, as both Dr. Fletcher and Jennifer have mentioned, that the participants have been very engaged. All the material has been well received. Yes, we've gotten some questions. Yes, there are some things that we know we need to change, but people are speaking up in these meetings, and that's really great to see. We've also had lots of media coverage on these. Every single one of our town halls has had reporters, news reporters there, just a whole lot of folks. Dr. Fletcher's getting a lot of interviews after each one of these. So that's been good too. And everything that I've seen as far as news coverage goes has all been extremely positive. And so as Dr. Fletcher said, thank you to all of you, because the team has been really well prepared to handle any of the questions that have come down the pike. You all have asked the questions that we are hearing in these town halls. So there have been very few surprises, which is really a credit to everybody on this call. So thank you to our members and to our partners for that. We have had social studies teachers show up, especially in the first 3. I don't know, maybe the message has gotten out that we're listening, and we've asked them to come back with a proposal of what they'd like to see when it comes to social studies. So we're not being flooded in the last few that we've had, but they're definitely showing up and speaking their voice. But the message has gotten out that we're listening. If they have a proposal for what needs to be changed with social studies, we're willing to listen to that. And then I will turn it over to Dr. Fletcher, who's going to talk about the wows and the wonders that we've been seeing.
Well, the only complaint that we haven't brought up is the fact that we've had so many people complain that the commissioner is only allowed to talk for 10 minutes during these town halls. That's the only complaint that I've heard personally. I don't think it's been given to everyone else, but I've heard, no, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, and setting aside of jokes, it has been fun. It has been a lot of fun to do these and to talk to people. For example, one thing that we did after the second or third meeting was to stop and instead of saying, what questions do you have, stop at the end and tell people to turn and talk and say, okay, what are some of the wows that you're seeing? And maybe what are some of the questions that you still have? So that time frame, usually we'll say we'll give people 4 to 5 minutes, but they continue talking, and it's a buzz in the room to hear what's going on. And some of the wows that we're hearing is, well, we hear a lot of input talking about, just like Dr. Stafford pointed out, talking about our interim assessments and what are some things that we could do moving forward with that. We have a lot of questions talking about the bands versus grade level, the social studies, science, and writing, how that looks. We've had some comments about that. And of course, the parameters on social studies and those natures, that's just like Karen talked about. But one of the big wows has been the focus on local flexibility. How can we give districts as much flexibility as possible to showcase their district, but also to develop a system that pushes for growth? We've made this comment I've made this comment in every single meeting. A local accountability system that gives you 100% across the board, quote unquote, is not worth the paper it's written on, nor is it worth the website that it's published to. So our goal here is to give as much flexibility so that districts can identify the expectations of their local community and then show how they're growing based on that. Of course, again, the federal accountability with math, reading, and other parts we've talked about, those are important. But the local flexibility and the local accountability and that vibrant learning opportunity are the most important parts of this. And that local flexibility has been something that has been a wow. Also, too, the emphasis on preparing students for a prosperous Kentucky. The strong focus on preparing students to thrive, just like again, the story talking about the young man that is getting calls while he's at school to work from his work-based learning group. Because they're asking him his input on drones from around the world. And again, that's a global economy. That's something that our students are participating in already. And of course, this third grade student is another great story. And those stories go on and on and on. But the emphasis again about having those enduring skills, those skills of more than just again having those foundations in reading and writing and mathematics, but also having the ability to collaborate, the ability to be creative, the ability to communicate, be lifelong learners. We feel that what we're hearing back from people is they see the vision of we have to prepare people for the future without knowing exactly what the future looks like. So if they have certain enduring skills that you can find within our portraits of a learner throughout the Commonwealth, that goes a long way with that preparing students for a prosperous Kentucky. And of course, supporting for diverse learning needs. We've had the most powerful part about this is different schools talking about how they're addressing diverse learning needs. For example, students that may English as a second language to them. We're having districts that are having students to present their defenses of learning in their native language and present it to community members that speak the same language so that they can celebrate their culture, celebrate who they are, but also do this in a ways, how does this tie back to what I'm learning in my classroom? Also with the districts talking about special education and what they're doing with some of their higher need population students of having defenses of learning there. So we also understand there are some students that they just don't take a test well. So how do we give them the opportunity to defend their learning and have this inclusive approach as we move forward? So we want every single kid to have that opportunity to succeed. So that wow is there in a lot of these meetings. As far as wonders, there's again also a lot of questions about equity and consistency and local accountability. How do you balance the giving districts a lot of flexibility with having certain requirements? So again, and then making sure that all students are getting the same type of experience, those vibrant learning opportunities and those vibrant learning experiences in classes. So, one of the things we've talked about is how do we look at this third-party evaluator to come in and look at those equity and consistency issues as part of that third-party evaluation process. So we're trying to talk about that as we go through. Matter of fact, I think we recently, when we talk about social studies and writing, I think we just got a letter, unsolicited letter from an arts organization talking about how we could look at aligning this with the art content with portraits of a learner. So we're getting some input like that too as we move forward. Also, implementation and practicality. How do we make sure that these new systems are being achieved? And also having, I guess one of the things that surprised me is districts want local flexibility, but they also want guardrails, or they want frameworks, or they want input for us to provide models and plans that they can follow. So again, having local flexibility, but they also want that, how can we implement this? And our goal is not only to help them from KDE, but also connect them with other districts. That collaboration part, not only within their community, but with other districts and with KDE to help with that implementation and then make sure that this is practical. When it comes to, for example, our interim assessments, what type of resources, high quality instructional resources can we help districts move towards when it comes to trying to meet not only the grade level standards, but also we're looking at the grade level equivalency identification for each student through this interim process. And of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, support for teachers and leaders. That's how can we make sure that we're not putting more administrative paperwork, more administrative burden. This is an opportunity for growth and making sure that we give those resources to teachers to get us there. So again, those are some of the wonders that we're hearing, and we're really relying on districts to provide a lot of those answers that have gone through this local accountability. And so far, districts have done an awesome job of talking about the professional development that they're offering within their district. They're talking about the partnerships that they're building, not only with other districts, but also with their community members. And one of the stories that was told as far as, when we talk about people that are attending, in one of our districts, and I think I've heard this from 2 or 3 different districts, talking about defenses of learning for the senior, that some of our seniors are walking out with job offers just from their defenses of learning. So when people are hearing this, they're like, this is where we need to go. This is really vibrant learning. This is really great opportunity and relevance for our students. So again, the wonders are not, how do we keep this from happening? It's more about the wonders of like, wow, we want this to be, something that is, we can build capacity across our state, and we want this in the long term for our students. So the wows and wonders have been some eye-opening opportunities for me. And also too having that input from others. The last thing I'll say is the comments that I receive and we receive in our board of directors meetings with superintendents is they're actually thanking us for listening, because they can see changes. For example, if you look at the KUWL Council, you can point to so many different areas where the KUWL Council has had input in each prototype, in each model framework. But a good example is that science. Our last KUWL Council meeting is when we pulled out science and put in that student input. That was something that we heard from our KUWL Council. We heard from LSAC. We heard from our Kentucky Board of Education. So our superintendents are actually acknowledging that we're listening, we as in the KUWL Council and KDE, to the input they have as we move forward. So I believe that the buy-in is there. It just seems like a great momentum at this point, and I can't be more excited. So with that being said, the wows and wonders have been a great piece, but also to that input and just districts saying we appreciate your listening. It means a lot. It means a lot. So Karen, I think it's up to you now.
Yeah, so for those of you, I know we've got several on here that have attended one or more of these town halls. We would love to hear your observations. So feel free to turn on your camera, turn on your mic, and let us know what you thought of what's happened so far. I see Brandy on here. Brandy was one of our presenters. Hey, Brandy. Sorry to put you on the spot.
She called you out, Brandy, so you got to talk now. I'm sorry. She called you out.
Yes, no, I thought that the town hall was an amazing experience. And actually today we had our KSA Q&A. So I got to talk to a lot of the other chief academic officers and district assessment coordinators from around the state that were able to attend. And I heard nothing but positive feedback. They loved the idea of that local accountability and even started some collaborative conversations on where we're at and where that they see their districts going. So I thought it was wonderful and have heard nothing but good things.
Thanks, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Alfonso, I know you were there, and I think Sherry, I think you were there as well, right?
Yes, I'm having problems with my camera. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Yes, I was attended the one at Bowling Green, and I found it very, very informative. I'm a note taker, and I had several pages, but it was so interesting. I love the collaboration, having all the partners at the table, the of course, the educators, the community, the business partners, just everybody. So that was good. And then I had the particular question, of course, about being a parent of a special needs child, MSD. How do you incorporate them in the defensive and learning? And I thought Shelbyville did a very good job with I think it was making the ice cream was their thing that they did. And I thought that was very good. But, as I think about this, and I know that it's kind of overboard, but when I think about it in terms of making this an individual thing for each child, it's almost similar, but not as detailed and defined. Of course, you got the legalities. It's almost they all got their own individual education plan. And I thought that was so good that you're going to look at the child and how it's going to impact that child rather than sticking them in a classroom with many and then everybody's expected to do the same. So for me, it was very encouraging. I learned so much, and I thought you all did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Sherry. Alfonso, I don't know if you're able to come off mute or if you have anything you'd like to share.
Well, and I already mentioned this to you, and I already mentioned this over several times, right? But something that Dr. Fletcher mentioned before, right? It really resonated with me because I don't think that this state education agency fathom the extent of offering one of these meetings that could be considered as high level, right? It's something as important as the accountability system, and offer this, making the law instant to offer it in another language. Yeah, it's something that, yes, there were only 15 people on that day, given all the circumstances that were happening at that moment in our state and in the country. But the fact that you did offer that, whereas many others failed to do so, not only speaks volumes about the intent of this agency in bringing everybody to the table, it also talks about the efforts for accessibility that this agency is trying to put out there to bring those voices that that are going to share with us experiences and knowledge that otherwise in English we wouldn't be able to capture. And it was precisely about that really resonated with what Dr. Fletcher said, right? Because in a book that I'm reading right now, precisely about multilingual learners, one of the things that sometimes we educators we fail to consider is the immense trove of knowledge, experience, and expertise that our multilingual learners bring to our classrooms, and that we are only able to activate it when we put in place the systems, the structures, the protocols, and the procedures to capture all that. In doing these meetings, even if it was just 15 minutes, even if it was just 15 individuals, whether online or in person, you already have a whole bunch of people across the state who are waiting for those videos in Spanish to be uploaded out there and shared within their community. So kudos to this agency for doing it once again in a language other than English. And I can only continue to encourage you as a multilingual individual myself, as a world languages teacher, former KD employee, and hopefully future ML teacher as well. I can only continue encouraging you all to do so, please.
Thank you, Alfonso. Appreciate you. All right, let's open it up to the rest. Now that you've seen 2.0, what are your thoughts? What are your wonders? What do you like about it?
Hey there. So one of the things I'm thinking about, both from the framework and also what I heard at the town halls, which I agree have been really well done, and there's a lot of passion there, even in the questions and the concerns that people have. One of the things I'm thinking about is everybody wants a system that allows for innovation, but also is trustworthy, and is robust and meaningful. And I think there probably just are some questions about how that's going to happen. And honestly, lots of that lies not only in these high level decisions, but also in the process around how these things happen. So I think a thing that I'm thinking about is what's the next order level of things to be figured out by this group of people, and whoever else needs to be engaged about the processes that lead to trustworthy outcomes. So I appreciate the reference to the capacity building that's got to be front loaded, and the networks of support of the schools, the third party evaluator. I think all those things are like they're adding technical sufficiency and trustworthiness into the system. So that's just the thing. I don't have a full answer to it. That's just the thing that I'm thinking about. And I think a good next order level of this for this group of people to be thinking about, one of those processes that ensure a trustworthiness as we move forward into implementation after we make these high level decisions about these are the big parts of this, while we're still leaving room for innovation and iterations. Because honestly, the people who are coming closest to figuring this out right now are those local districts that are presenting. They're coming the closest to putting all the pieces together. So anyway, it's just been a really good bit of reflection, an opportunity for reflection through these town halls. But that's a thing I'm thinking about now for all of us here.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Anyone have any questions? Love to hear from any of our other members who are on today. This is your opportunity. If you see something that needs to be changed or that you're just unclear of.
To add, and again, we don't have all, Karen, to your point about, I think you're spot on. Our districts are answering a lot of these questions along the way and finding those. That's why that pilot phase is so important. But also, too, one of the things that I'll share with this group that, Kentucky's been asked to be a part of a reimagining high schools group. I think we're one of 6 states that have been asked about that. And how can we tie that work with our local accountability and maybe even include this group along with these implementation processes? So we've got we're just starting, we're just starting on the work, but to get to that point where everyone has that local accountability framework that their local communities believe in, that they trust. And that was I think it was Bullitt County. I think Jesse Bacon had made the comment that he felt like this local accountability process was building trust in his district once again, from the community's standpoint. And in his words, it was a game changer. And again, Brandy, you can attest to that. That's been part of that Bullitt County, working with the community to build that trust again. And not that they'd lost a lot of trust. It was just like this is strengthening that. So making sure that this is quality, but also to balancing that with the flexibility. We've still got a lot of work to do, but we're in a good place right now.
All right, well, I will share with you all some of our next steps, but we're still here. If you have any other questions, we've got plenty of, we haven't even been on for a full hour yet. So we do have time if you all have other questions. If you want to put them in the chat, that'll work as well. But coming up, we are, as Jennifer said, going to be working on a framework 3.0 with a lot of the changes that Jennifer has been mentioning and Dr. Fletcher has been mentioning throughout tonight's call. We do plan to have a KUWL Council virtual convening in March. So mark your calendars, please, for March 20th. This will be a short meeting. It'll be probably that afternoon, just for a couple of hours to go over that framework 3.0. We want to share it with all of you before it goes to the board the following week. So the following week, we have an early board meeting in the spring, and we really want to make sure that you all are good with version 3.0 before we take it to the board. And then we're also looking at dates for a summer convening that would be in person. This will be a 1-day in person. And I think this will be a good opportunity to talk about those next steps and anything else that needs to be planned out. And also maybe, where do we go with the council from here, after here, as Dr. Fletcher just mentioned, the Reimagining High School, maybe that's something that some of you want to be involved in. We also need to take another look at the United We Learn report. We know that we didn't capture everything in this work that was a part of that report. So what that looks like and who needs to be involved in finishing out that report is something that we might want to talk about over the summer to see if anybody wants to be involved in any of that work. So just some ideas. That's all still very much up in the air, but just want you to have that March 20th date on your calendars. And then as soon as we have some dates for the summer, I'm sure we will probably be sending out another survey to see what dates are better for all of you. And I know that's a lot of vacations in there and so on and so forth, but we'll try to work something out that most people can attend. Looking at the chat, feel like our community is, thank you, Brandy, nice comment. All right, anything else, anything from our partners or our members that you want to bring up before we go?
Laura, I think we should have some input there from our new visitor and see what they think.
She's a cutie.
She's happy because she got into cooking club at her after school program. So we're just celebrating cooking club.
Vibrant learning experiences right there.
Exactly.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Congratulations on the cooking club. I would expect maybe a croissant or something in the near future. Just saying.
I'll see what I can package up for that summer meeting.
Thank you.
So much for Andre's snacks.
Andre, you've got some competition, my friend.
I love it. I love it. It's a foodie. Always welcome.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep anyone longer than we have to. So thank you all for participating tonight. Mark your calendars. We'll get something out to everyone for that March meeting and a survey to see what works for everyone for the summer. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for everything that you've done up to this point, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.